cities, towns and rural areas, from north to south and east to west. Let us join hands for peace and prosperity. In so doing, we will redeem the faith which fired those whose blood drenched the soil of Sharpeville and elsewhere in our country and beyond. Today, we humbly pay tribute to them in a special way. This is a monument to their heroism. Today, together as South Africans from all walks of life and from virtually every school of political thought, we reclaim the unity that the Vereniging of 9 decades ago sought to deny. We give life to our nation's prayer for freedom regained and continent reborn. God bless South Africa. Nkosi sikelela iAfrika. Morena boloka setjhaba sa etso. Hot Sien South Africa, close quote. The Constitution is a powerful weapon against homelessness. Section 26 of the Constitution says so. Against illiteracy. Section 29 of the Constitution says so. Against hunger and disease. Section 27 of the Constitution says so. So whatever business, labor, government, and civil society does must take account of the need to get more people enjoying these benefits. We all must work together to accomplish this assignment. People died in Sharpeville and elsewhere in the country to end these inhuman conditions. The Constitution was signed there to remind us of these realities. The signing of our Constitution was meant to turn the Constitution into a monument to the heroism of the people of Sharpeville and all those who fell and suffered during the liberation struggle. So we must never allow ourselves to forget what many people like President Nelson Mandela had to endure for me to be standing here as Chief Justice, allowed to address a crowd like this, confident that there won't be any tear gas coming my way. Anybody with a functional conscience must seek to identify his or her responsibilities as contained in our Constitution. If you are indifferent because you occupy a position that pays you well, if you are indifferent to the plight of the people in Diepsloot and elsewhere in the country because you are comfortable, you live in a suburb, know that you are a traitor. And you are a traitor of our Constitution, you are a traitor of Nelson Mandela, you are a traitor of any other person who suffered for us to get to where we are. This is so because the Constitution places a responsibility on each and every one of us, regardless of age, to contribute towards ending the injustices of our past. Sometimes I wonder, are they of our past? And sometimes I lament why we don't have colonialism and apartheid in our Constitution, because they would have served as a constant reminder of exactly what it is we mean when we say there is a need to give practical expression to the injustices of our past. Based organizations, Madiba himself said on the occasion of signing our Constitution that we have a national prayer to say, we must pray. The way to transform our society using the Constitution is partly by praying. God bless South Africa. God bless Africa. God protect our people. We should not be ashamed of praying, and we should not be made to be ashamed of prayer. When you pray, you are not insulting Bishop Mutula. You are making a request for your people. Whether it will be granted or not is a difference. Now, we need institutions to actualize our shared aspirations in the Constitution, and one of them is the judiciary. Articulating the critical role that the judiciary has to play in transforming our society through the Constitution, Madiba said in 1995 when he was inaugurating the Constitutional Court, open quotes, "The last time I appeared in court was to hear whether or not I was going to be sentenced to death. Fortunately for myself and my colleagues, we were not. Today I rise not as an accused, but on behalf of the people of South Africa, to inaugurate a court South Africa has never had, a court on which hinges the future of our democracy. It is not just our blessings that we give to their work, integrity and commitment to justice. It is an institution that we establish, South Africa's first constitutional court." And then he went on to say, "We owe our thanks to the Constitutional Court, which has proved a true and fearless custodian of our constitutional agreements. One of the things one discovers when coming into office is that there is no shortage of rubber stamps. South Africans did not establish this court to be another rubber stamp. We expect you to be creative and independent. We expect you to be true to the oath you have just sworn," close quote. We dare not forget that Madiba was so committed to the fundamental human rights that are embodied in our Constitution that he was prepared to die in pursuit of that ideal. And the question that confronts you and I, that I'll come back to later, is, what are you committed to? I'm reliably informed that they took a decision that if the death penalty were to be imposed during the Rivonia trial, they were not going to appeal. What are you prepared to suffer for? What a shame if just because of bad publicity or criticism from one source or the other, or the risk of being fired, you become a participant in stealing the resources that are supposed to help the poor. What a shame to know that some of us, even if you see the most heinous of crimes being committed, just because a criminal threatens you, you would rather have that little girl suffer. It becomes none of your business. You would rather have gangsters terrorizing our people just to protect your own skin. Out of respect for Nelson Mandela and the Bill of Rights that he knew of before it found space in our Constitution, and his commitment to transform society, our society, and societies the world over, stand out and stand up against criminality regardless of who is committing it. I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues here. I see my colleague Edwin Cameron is here, and Albie Sachs, when I say at no stage did the Constitutional Court and the broader judiciary seek to protect the individual members of the court at the expense of principle. We've stuck our necks out. No wonder the criticism has at times been as severe as it has been against us. What are you doing to ensure that this constitution works for every South African? Therefore, because of the critical role that the Constitutional Court and the judiciary in general has to play in transforming our society through the Constitution, we owe it to this country and generations to come to make sure that we don't have a compromised judiciary. We have got to be interested to know how people get to be appointed to office. You have got to observe carefully. You have got to watch carefully how people are being interviewed, because there are times when you can tell certain people are being shielded from being asked critical questions. And the question is, when that happens, who is doing it and what is the agenda? How can you have an independent and competent judge or magistrate who, when questions are sought to be put to him or her, people build a scrum around him or her? Any competent judge or magistrate or a candidate aspiring to be appointed to that position must demonstrate his or her capacity by fielding the toughest of questions. But if people are now caucusing about a certain candidate, you must know there is an attempt to corrupt the judiciary. You must know there is an attempt to capture the judiciary. And a captured judiciary will never be able to use the Constitution as an instrument of transformation. Because any captured member of the judiciary will simply be told or will know in advance, when so and so are involved, I better know my place. Or when certain issues are involved, well, the decision is known in advance. So and so can't lose. Be on the lookout, be vigilant, and be forceful in making uncomfortable anybody who seeks to establish a pliable judiciary. Madiba himself said, our constitutional democracy hinges on the judiciary. Very jealously. And another way of doing so is being very critical of us when we do wrong things. Madiba said, I hope I'll find the quotation having not been reading. Well, I remember it anyway. He said, one of the things we needed to do as judges is to give reasons for our decisions that an ordinary man can understand.